Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Find and Facilitate offering of the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship. We're here at the Global Missions. Welcome all of you here. We hope that you all will join us live and contribute to global missions. The world is waiting on us. We have an opportunity to make a difference, and so we're hoping to do that here tonight. Glad to have all of the council with us. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Thank you to Second Chance Church and Pastor Johnny Walker for opening up their facility and doing a great job of hosting us, and for Brother Jeff Hopper, Brother Luis at HGR. Thank y'all for helping us go live. And so we're glad to have you join us. Let's have a little discussion, talk about missions, talk about where we're going, what's happening. There's a lot of exciting things happening at Global Missions Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship.
Before we launch into that discussion, what are ways to give?
We can text to give. I think we'll have that on the screen, but it's the $ F, spell out FANDF, and you can text it to 918-383-2280. And of course, the old-fashioned way of just writing out a check and mailing it in to the WPF headquarters in Tulsa. Just be sure you earmark it for Find and Facilitate.
That information should be on the screen, so if they're viewing, they should see that, but it doesn't hurt to give that information vocally. So thank you, Chairman Rowley, for opening things up. So help us, I think a good discussion would be to talk about the paradigm of what Find Facilitate is, and then just recently we have brainstormed about adding a support element to it. So it's Find, Facilitate, and Support. So if somebody doesn't know what any of that means, how could we communicate that in a short, brief synopsis of what that is?
Find and Facilitate has been the primary way that we have connected with missional efforts around the world, funded missional efforts around the world. And as you say, we've recently added to Find and Facilitate support. Of course, we rolled out our Activate 220 program at Summit, and we'll give a few more details about that as the evening goes along. But Find and Facilitate is a quick way that we can respond to missional needs around the world. Brother Townley, I think, may have a few things that will help us to understand some of the things that we've done.
Yes, sir. Through the years, Find and Facilitate has enabled the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship to contribute toward the purchase of property for churches. Find and Facilitate monies has been used to offset medical expenses that were incurred by missionary families, hospitalizations that would occur, surgeries that would be needed. Of late, there was funds used to assist sister.
Can I interrupt you just real quick on that? So Find and Facilitate helps with medical emergencies.
Absolutely.
So I know Brother Nix had an emergency, and Brother Kelly Nix is on this Global Missions Council. So could you give us kind of an idea of what happened with him, and then how did Find and Facilitate help him in his situation?
Absolutely. This was last year, I believe. He suffered an acute medical emergency, ended up in the hospital.
In Peru?
In Peru.
Okay.
It was actually a very, very scary time. We didn't really know if he was going to pull through. Had to have very serious surgery, and that would have been devastating to a missionary's budget, but within a matter of days after his surgery, Find and Facilitate was able to completely cover all of his medical expenses.
Wow.
It's a tremendous blessing.
Yeah.
And he was at Summit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I think it's important that we also stress that Find and Facilitate, obviously we understand the need for a monthly support, which is the whole Activate 220 that was introduced at Summit. But Find and Facilitate is a very important piece of what we're doing with global missions, not only because of the negative moments. I remember a few years ago, Find and Facilitate helped one of the missionaries from South America, I think Brazil, had a situation, emergency tickets. I mean, there were thousands of dollars to buy an immediate situation. And immediately our minds go to that. But there are also opportunities that develop that you may not have time to go raise 6 months of funds, and Global Missions has to have a way to act in the immediate opportunity. The old saying, you know, opportunity doesn't have hair on the back of its head. You got to grab it coming. You can't grab it as it's already gone. True. And so if this offering is strong with Find and Facilitate, it allows us to not only meet needs. A few years ago, we met the needs. The typhoon had destroyed a number of churches in the Philippines. We were able to get emergency relief to them and help them. But there's also opportunity. So we're not just, this isn't like just a disaster or emergency relief plan. This is very missional for opportunity as well. I think that needs to be something that's on the table as well.
True, that's all very good information. Something that you can do, you can text one of us here. You can send a direct message to HGR and let us know. If you want to give, most of us have our cell phones here. How many of you guys get your cell phones ready? Most of you know our numbers. Text us to give, or send it into HGR, and they can do it because this is live. We have numbers starting to come in. I have a few right now. I guess it's probably.
Well, we just interrupted Brother Town.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
It's all right, we're winging our way. Let's
we're
do
like,
it.
bam, jumped right in there. We silenced you, brother.
Sorry.
So you were giving us some examples, and I wanted to just use one of the things that you said as a real-time example.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the other things?
Another area where Find and Facilitate has been able to advance the kingdom is with the Shepherds Symposium that Brother Wade Bass hosts. And they've been able to designate monies for that.
And that's training.
Unpack that. What is that for those that may be just joining us that don't know what's going on with Brother Bass?
From what I understand, Brother Bass is going over and he is training the leaders, preaching to the preachers, and they're covering things such as the essential doctrines. And
he's pulling, it's in a particular location, but he's pulling a wide geographical in-draw to that. So it's not just, it might not just be one country, it might be multiple countries.
There's multiple countries in Southern Africa, so, yeah.
And he's done work in India as well.
As well. And I know that I was involved many years ago when Find and Facilitate was first being launched, and we conducted some seminars. We called them fraternal gatherings of Pentecostals and people of like-minded faith. And we invited pastors from Trinitarian groups, and would have up to 150 pastors sometimes in these kinds of meetings. And in the morning, we would teach on leadership concepts, and then the afternoon we would dedicate those times to teaching doctrine, apostolic doctrine. The evening they came back, and we just let them unpack the day and then give a report of the things that were gleaned. And there were literally whole churches that were baptized as a result of these kinds of things. So the work that Brother Bass is currently doing in Southern Africa, India, and elsewhere in the world, and as well as others, is a great need. And your Find and Facilitate dollars make this possible.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction, because at Summit, we launched the Activate 220, which is obviously for our resident missionaries that are in the field. But those 20 or 21 resident missionaries, the WPF also has what we have global missionary evangelists or global teachers such as Brother Bass, Brother Buxton, Brother Wardwell, Brother Hanscom. I shouldn't have started naming names. Brother Smith, David Smith. Well, these men are not getting that monthly support, but they are doing very active work and
Absolutely.
very important work. And so Find and Facilitate is a very important vehicle to be able to fund these things that are taking place with training these leaders around the world.
Why do you think there was a need to distinguish between those groups that you just mentioned? You said resident missionaries, and then you said global evangelists. Why is there, I mean,
I wouldn't say that, and you know, Chairman Rowley, you can speak to this. I know that this has been a part of discussion. It is not it's nothing to do with lesser importance, but it is a different role. And when we talk of resident missionaries, obviously there needs to be a very real, continued, ongoing, committed financial support, because these are people that are in the field.
In the field.
They can't hold jobs. They're not pastoring a church that can support them many times, because let's be honest, the WPF is a new ministry, a new structure, and many of our missionaries are new works. And so there is no 30-year history of tithing and offering, and these are pioneer ministries. And so a resident ministry is someone that's going to have that monthly support, and obviously find and facilitate. As they get there, they're finding things, and we're having to help facilitate that. Whereas these missionary evangelists or teachers are kind of almost like special forces coming in and out on assignments or missions. That would be the way that I think would be.
I think that's accurate.
I want to see on the card that goes out, I've just always been curious, and I agree with you in terms of respect, because I've traveled with some of those men, and what they do is incredible.
Sure.
But I want to see, like, who's living in the field, I think that's a very important distinction, because sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle. So there needs to be some delineation there to explain that.
Everyone on this board is involved in some kind of world evangelism. But we have two men on this board, Brother Nix, Brother Allard. I think, and obviously you're still doing global work, but I would say the experience that I have is much different than the experience you had living in Africa or you living in South America. I mean, there's a very real distinction and a very real different need.
I'd just like to add to that as well, because it's been good for this committee to hear the voice of former missionaries. It changes quite a bit in terms of perspective, because if you've never served in the mission field, you may have a burden for it, but there's a lot that you might be missing.
Yeah, I certainly speak to that very quickly, and I'm sure that Brother Nix could as well. Certainly there's a huge difference, a very appreciable difference in living on the field, and no matter how much you're going back and forth, and living there underneath the grind of that circumstance, situation, existentially, every single day that you're facing, the hardships, the realities that someone that's coming in and going out, it's a whole different ball game for them. But I think we've come to this place that there's this nexus point within the WPF as a movement, and we're having to make some adjustments, and I wouldn't say transitions, but I would certainly say some adjustments. And one of the things we are having to consider as we move forward, which we'll talk about more later, is Activate 220, and we need to make sure that our missionaries are taken care of, and make sure that there is a monthly support for them. And while we may not be taking pledges for that tonight, but we may, but while we may not be focusing on that tonight, let me say this, that there is an extreme need for missionary support for our resident missionaries that are out there in the field. But on the other hand, we cannot neglect, while we're trying to move that way, we also cannot neglect emerging opportunities, because there are plenty of emerging opportunities in the world. There's not a moment or not a day that goes by hardly that there's not someone from Africa, someone from South America, Europe, Asia, wherever, that is not soliciting us, asking for our help. And there's doors that are opening, and we have to be able to respond quickly, and that's where Find and Facilitate differentiates itself from Activate 2020.
Since we've begun, I just got a text from India, from one of the Find and Facilitate ministries that has been done over the last years. It's 4 a.m. in the morning, and they are having their 4 a.m. prayer meeting while we are doing this. They just text since we
that's
started.
awesome.
So, and that's not where we would have a resident missionary. At this point, we're not able to have a resident missionary in that part of India, but they are there praying, and because of Find and Facilitate, we're able to tap in and be a support to that group of brethren.
This may be a good moment. We talked earlier about how many various missionary groups we've been able to help through the years.
Yeah, so I think, what is it, 20 or 21 resident missionaries, and then 7 or 8 of the missionary evangelists and teachers. But through Find and Facilitate and the Global Missions, I think we're touching somewhere over 80,
Yeah.
Chairman Riley, somewhere 80 different things on a monthly or regular basis is being supported, either through designated giving or, so the footprint's much larger
Yeah.
than just that 21 or that 7.
Do you still have some more examples? We keep interrupting you, Brother Townley.
This is
Sorry,
great.
but.
This is great.
You just keep
Yeah,
rolling
I have-
out some good information there.
I
so.
have 2 more
Okay.
areas that Find and Facilitate has been very helpful in. One of them was during and after COVID. Find and Facilitate contributed more than $100,000
Wow.
globally to give assistance.
There was a period there when Find and Facilitate, that's just about all we did for a while.
And that was a tough time for missionaries, and had this movement not supported Find and Facilitate, there would have been a lot of suffering works.
Absolutely. There were entire fields that were almost decimated.
Sure.
Everybody was in lockdown. You know, it was difficult here in the States, but it was magnified so much more in those foreign fields. They were just not able to go do, because it's pretty much, you know, whatever they find at hand that day. They work, they eat, whatever, and it's an ongoing process. But when you get in lockdown, I know I was working personally with some in India, some missionaries in India, and they just couldn't go out and work. They couldn't. They were just locked down. But because of the Find and Facilitate monies that were available, we were able to send tons of money, and they bought tons of food, and were able to distribute it. It literally, Find and Facilitate saved lives. Probably hundreds, if not thousands of lives were saved through everywhere from India to Vietnam to Central and South America, a lot of places. It was amazing. And we never know when that's going to occur again. Find and Facilitate is an integral part of what we do, and will always be part of what we do here at the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship. Designated funds is still our biggest contributions to our missionaries, and we encourage all of our members to continue to designate funds to those men and ministries that you're personally aware of and you know that you're personally invested in. We want you to keep doing that. And then Find and Facilitate will continue. Excuse me. So we,
Where's the cough button?
yeah, I need a cough button. So you got more? Get
Yeah,
some
one more.
stuff? Yeah.
And that is that Find and Facilitate has funded the distribution of Bibles
Yes.
in various places.
Not only distribution, help in the production of that Bible. That Bible would, I'm not going to say it would not have been done, but it would have taken years.
Yeah.
Years, I
Yeah.
mean, because that was you don't just go print a Bible at Kinko's.
That's right. So they've been dispersed on the continent of Africa.
India as
and
well.
The country of India. As a matter of fact, in particular, in the country of India, there was a commitment made of 10 Bibles for 196 different churches. Each church got at least 10 Bibles.
And I'm new to the board in this season. Am I correct? Didn't Find and Facilitate fund the translation and distribution of Brother Crawford Coon's discipleship program, even into Spanish? Am I correct?
It was part of that, and that's an ongoing,
Okay.
we're still doing that. We're not complete with the Crawford Coons works yet.
Yeah, it's still in progress.
They're still in progress.
Okay.
But we did publish it. We went through multiple publications for it, and we have done other apostolic books as well. And that, all that comes through Find and Facilitate. The entire offering at Summit, Find and Facilitate offering one year, went to do the Premier Study Bible. And the Crawford Coonwort is our #1 seller. It is the #1 seller in the WPF bookstore, has been for a number of years. And maybe this is just a shameless plug for that, but we will hope that you'd go buy that. Every home in America, if you're an apostolic, you need that book in your
Yeah, that's
in
good.
your collection. It's great.
And the ability to provide that to missionaries in the languages of the countries where they're working is incalculable, because if national ministers are hungry for anything at all, is to be trained.
Absolutely.
And this is, to me, this stresses what y'all just laid out, stresses the importance of Find and Facilitate, because our hands are limited with designated funds, because none of that stays in a coffer. It all goes to where a pastor or church says, send this to wherever it may be. Our hands are tied. We can't do anything, nor do we want to, because we want 100% that to get to the field. But yet there are so many opportunities, and unless someone designates that opportunity, we have no means to get it there. So when churches and pastors just say, whatever God's doing in this season, let's just throw some energy and finance at it, so that opportunity, without it, I mean, we would have never been able to do these translations or even the Bible or anything like that.
I just got a text. In fact, I got it on the way here to the offering. One of our former chairmen, Dr. Johnny King, is in Germany.
Okay.
And he's there with Missionary Rob. He was an international member of the WPO. And he is extending himself to translating it into German. And of course, he was asking for permission to get the digital format so he can begin the process. So, that's gonna land on our desk soon. Do we approve that? How great would it be to see Brother
Pastor
Crawford
Sopp.
Coonsworth?
Yeah.
Pastor
Pastor
Sopp.
Sopp.
Yeah.
So in talking about that, let's talk a little bit about, the great work that's being done in the field by the missionaries and the national missionaries that are there, the indigenous missionaries that are there, the pastors that are in the field. There's great work that's taking place. And we in North America really need to stand beside them. And one of the ways that we can do that is through our giving. A lot of us do have an opportunity to travel, and we do travel. However, possibly you can't travel, but no matter what, we can give. And one of the things that we need to continue to do is give. Because through our giving, we can take and we can redouble their efforts. Whatever they're doing, if they have funds, they can be even more effective. And let me just say this from a Western perspective, and having lived overseas, they can do more than we can do. If we'll give them the training and the finance to do the work, they can do a lot more than we can do. And so we need to stand by our international partners.
Well, I just got a text from Brother Urshan, who was preaching. He said he's not going to be able to stay on, but he wanted to let us know that he is giving $20,000 in tonight's offering. So
Praise God.
that's a great testimony. So Brother Urshan, I don't know if you're still listening in the car. Thank you for that offering.
Praise God.
Wonderful.
So before we get to the actual offering numbers, so we have this offering is about find and facilitate. Another term that's been thrown out there is designated funds. So traditionally, people in the WPF have given to find and facilitate, and they've given to designated funds. So at Summit this year, we activated what was known as Activate 220. Can you this offering is not about Activate 220, but because we launched it at Summit, at least we need to give a small summary
good.
about what that is.
Clarify it.
What is it?
It's a way for any church, whether you're a home missions church or a large church, everybody could afford to give $220 a month to Activate 220. What that will do as it comes in.
Why 220?
220 is, I think Brother Nix was the one, we were just doing some research, looking around, things that need catchy little things that kind of catch on and
Yeah.
grow. We found out we had approximately 220 churches. Then, I think it's grown some since we first done our research, but 220 churches, and we just done the math. 220 churches, given $220 is $48,000, right at $50,000. That would give us per month to divide up among currently just over 20 missionaries, resident missionaries. And this is a way for any church just to write one check and support all the missionaries of the WPF at one time.
That wouldn't change, so.
No.
So if I'm sending designated funds, that's not gonna
No,
change
won't
that.
change.
It's just gonna be a sum over here that's going to all the missionaries.
That's right.
Yeah, and for me as a pastor, that's a big, I'm glad you brought that up, because obviously I have some deep connections with particular missionaries out of my church. There's going to be, I'm going to give designated funds to them out of that relationship of visiting there. But there may be a missionary that I don't know as well, or don't have the opportunity to be at their work, but I want to invest in that as well. And so what may be a small amount may not even seem worth sending. But if you're doing a small amount, and I'm doing a small amount, and before long, this becomes I think this is a wonderful new step forward for people.
I think the reason it'd be good to clarify the reason that this is so important and how it differs from Find and Facilitate. As missionaries working overseas, in almost every case, missionaries are not allowed to work in the local economy.
right.
They can't take money from that country. And so the only way that they can survive their personal needs, their living expenses, is through this personal support. And even if we were to send Missionary a $50,000 offering from Find and Facilitate to build a new church building, his family may not have enough money to eat, but he can't touch those $50,000 to feed his family.
Right.
So that's why we have this kind of two-pronged approach, so that we're making sure that we take care of our missionaries so that they can take care of the work of God. We're providing them funds to operate on, and we're also providing them funds to live on.
Let me say something about that. One of the things that I heard often as I was coming into the WPF, and especially questioning and asking about missions and about what was going on, was this ongoing dialogue that there just wasn't enough mass within the WPF to support a missions program that supported missionaries. And I believe that this is a great opportunity for first steps as we begin to make those first steps towards being able to really stand by our missionaries and partner with them and say that, while you're still raising some funds yourself, that we as an organization are going to, a fellowship, are going to stand beside you, and we're going to at least begin to provide some kind of assistance for you while you're in the field. So I believe this is a great first step. For me,
Yes.
It's only a first step, because I really do believe that our missionaries need that monthly support. It gives that family the peace of mind, the security that they need, that man, that woman that's called of God. They need us to stand beside them, and this needs to be communicated that we're standing with them, we're standing with their family, and they're not going to go without. We're going to be with them and help meet their needs.
If you're a person who is feeling the call of God on your life to go to the field, while this isn't going to answer all of your needs, this is
Right.
going to give you a path forward so that the ability to relocate your family to the mission field is not some kind of a distant reality, but there's actually funding coming in to help you get there and help you establish yourself.
So I think what I hear all of you saying is, in the beginning of the WPF, it was finding works anywhere in the world where revival was happening, and the focus was to touch that somehow and be a part of that.
Correct.
And that was because there wasn't a stable, if that's probably not the best term, of missionaries. We didn't know. We didn't have that.
Didn't have them.
But as we grow, you're going to have more and more people that want to get involved in missions work. And so Find and Facilitate still does projects, helps, emergency situations. It still does all of that. But it also opens up the idea that how can we support missionaries that are resident in the field?
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that? And then how does that grow and how does that expand? You said we have 20, 21? In 10 years, what if you have 40, 50? There's got to be some way of incorporating them into the broader picture of what missions work is.
And I think that early on, there may have been, and maybe it was our expression of find and facilitate. Never at any point was find and facilitate not about a missionary.
Right.
Because it was more about finding what is God doing
Right.
and how do you facilitate that? Well, part of what we find is that country needs a missionary.
Yeah.
So facilitating is then funding that missionary there. So I think it's all tongue and groove.
Well, the questions about finding and facilitating, for me personally, it always goes back to India with Pastor Chinaboka, who is, this is a perfect example of find and facilitate. He was one guy that I made a contact with through social media. Elder David Smith went first, Brother Bass went multiple times, and Brother Bass has now gone several times. That has expanded now into over 100 pastors, almost 200 churches, and growing. It's an ever-expanding
Praise God.
thing, and that all happened through Find and Facilitate. It continues to expand. There's a big headquarters church that I know Brother Bass has been working very close with Pastor China there. So that's, without Find and Facilitate, we couldn't do that.
Right.
But we don't want to leave, as Kelly was talking about, and also Steve, these guys that's lived on the mission field, they see what goes on over there, they know the importance. We can get behind a building project. We can help them fix a car, get a medical procedure done. We can get them home in case of a death in the family. We do those kind of things, and it's important. We can feed them when there's a pandemic. But when you have some of the missionaries that are not as well known, there's some that are more well known just because they've had more exposure here in the States. There's some guys that are doing incredible work that a lot of our WPF pastors have never met. They don't know them, or they don't know, but we are aware. We know what they're doing. And so this Activate 220 is going to help us to support their everyday expenses, just living expenses. They don't have to fix their car with it. They don't have to put a roof on their church with it. They don't have to buy Bibles for their members. This is just going to go to the daily needs of the missionary and his family. And I'm excited about it. But, I think all of us here at this table, and probably all of our listeners and viewers can tell, we want to make sure that everybody understands the differences between the two things. Well, actually, all three. We want you to understand that designated funds, please continue to do that. Those missionaries are dependent on it. We want you to do it. Find and facilitate. This council is making sure that it's going to specific missional endeavors that are worthwhile. And we're diligent about that, and we're doing our best. And then this Activate 220, it has the potential of being a real life-changing opportunity for our missionaries. So time's going, guys. We're 30 minutes into our broadcast. I've had a few. I'm sure some of you probably, unless some of y'all are sending them over to me, we kind of started compiling some of the lists. Would it be a good time? Y'all think a good time to read some? I know he just talked to us about Brother Urshan. Just a couple. Our former mission chairman, Pastor Steve Buxton, Bishop Steve Buxton, wanted to give $1,000 in memory of his dad, his late dad, and we appreciate all that Brother Steve Buxton done for his many years on the board and then his tenure as the chairman.
And his work as a global evangelist and teacher.
Absolutely.
Impacting a whole lot in the Philippines.
Yeah, the Philippines is really, and Africa.
Yeah.
But he has a really incredible compound that's being built in, is that in Palawan, I think? Bahol, there we go. And it's an amazing facility that's going to do a whole lot for that whole area. And he's close, and I know he's just right down to the wire getting it done. I'm personally aware that he's selling some of his personal items to try try to get it done.
And sowing into Find and Facilitate.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and he's given
That's
$1,000.
Yeah.
And he just sold, all of us men know a skid steer. That's the perfect toy, And he just sold his skid steer to help fund the work. And then he's given $1,000 to the Find and Facilitate. But he knows from being here all these years that it's very, very worthwhile. And
What are we giving around this table? I'd like to give 10,000,
I'm in for 10,000.
and as a part of that, I would like to do a share to the Activate 220.
Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to give 10,000, and I'm also going to do the Activate 220 as well. Here's something that we kind of talked about this leading up to this meeting. Like we're looking for 220. Can we call it shares that we're trying to get those boxes checked?
Yeah.
We may not get all 220 churches, but there may be a church out there. There may be a pastor listening right now or watching online that could say, hey, I'll take 3 of those boxes. I'll check all 3 of those shares and give 660. But it would be great if we in the next little while could be able to do that. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna give 10,000 to Find and Facilitate, as well as the Activate 220 as well.
The Rock Church is going to do that, and we may be able to do more as we go. But tonight we're going to do $10,000 from the Rock Church.
Yeah. Myself as well. Abundant Life Christian Center is going to do 10,000. We're going to take a share. So I just believe that we need to sow into this ministry and see what God's going to do.
Our church in San Antonio will be there soon. For tonight, we're going to do 2,000.
Awesome.
And also share of
That's
Activate
incredible.
220.
That's incredible. You guys are doing great work in San Antonio. Got a meeting coming up
Yes, we do, next week.
next week. So
Yeah, let's do a little plug for that, because I think, at least today, one of the discussions is that I think we're going to see a marked focus in a number of these meetings coming up in the next 6 months that are very Missio Dei oriented.
Yep.
Yes.
Global.
And actually, my father, Missionary Robert Nix, is going to be at the meeting.
Awesome.
And so for those who'd like to meet him,
I
That'd be
feel,
that's your chance.
we were in the meeting today, those of you that are watching, I wish you could have been there, the impetus of the Spirit. There is a call for global missions right now. The world has become smaller, and we have a need for people to be in the field. So, and this is all part of it.
Absolutely. I believe there's that call from the field saying, come help us. And really, I think that's the way that we need to look at it. We need to look at it as though that we are going to stand alongside our international partners and all over the world, but especially in the Global South. We're actually seeing just a massive call from the Global South, an appeal for workers, come help us. And I believe that we need to stand with those global partners.
I just received a text from somebody at the home church. They said, make that 5,000.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
that's
Very
great.
We
nice.
like those texts. Keep them coming.
That's great.
So there are texts coming in now, and you're welcome to do that through the text to give, or you can text anybody sitting at this table. But there's also been quite a number of people before we even arrived here that said, this is what I'm going to contribute. So what were some of those amounts?
I think it's always good to have our leadership. We're all bought in here, and we always want to see, our leaders in the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship lead in giving. Brother Kenny Godare and the World of Pentecost in North Carolina has let me know they'll be giving $25,000 towards Find and Facilitate. Thank you to Chairman Godare for
Absolutely.
$25,000. Another contributor, he's a friend of the WPF, Pastor Homer Looper in Silsbee, Texas, $10,000 from him. There's a number here I can go.
Yeah,
I can
let's
go
hear
down
them. This is
list.
good. This is stirring faith.
Pastor Ben Davis, a lot of people know Brother Ben
Rosenberg.
Davis. Rosenberg, Texas. He's been involved with a lot of things we have going on. He's giving $1,000 to Find and Facilitate. Brother Dan Booth $1,000. Brother Robert Jeans, $1,000. Right here. Not only are they sacrificing time, minute, I'm gonna tell you, Second Chance Church and Pastor Walker and the entire group of people here, this has been phenomenal. These people do it so well. Not only have they facilitated us this week, but they're giving $5,000.
Wow.
$5,000 to Find and Facilitate. Thank you, Pastor Walker and Second Chance Church.
I just got a text, Oakland Tabernacle, Ryan Caputo, $2,000.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Glad to see. This is kind of, it's not really, seeing these people, get involved for the first time. I don't remember Brother Caputo, but it's good to see these people doing it. I'm happy to see a lot of new names. A significant donation, a little bit different than we've got in the past, is the Kish Foundation through Brother Mark Bluen has pledged $50,000.
Thank you,
to
Brother
Find
Bluen.
Facility. Brother Mark
Absolutely.
Bluen, thank you so
Brother
much.
Bluen has been instrumental, Hope Corps, missions trips himself. He has a heart for the things of God, so Brother Bluen, we appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Mark Bluen has been a blessing to a lot of us, and we thank you, Brother Bluen, for all that you do for the kingdom.
Pastor, here's another new one, Pastor Pizarro, Roseville, $1,000, Find and
Wow.
Facilitate.
It's coming.
Chairman Rowley?
Yes, sir.
I have Pastor Brad Allard, $2,000, as well as Pastor Shane Golden, $2,000.
Awesome.
Pastor Brandon Wilmoth, $3,000.
Come on, California.
And Pastor Paul Deeds, $3,000.
That's an EC member, right? EC
Absolutely,
member,
Brother
yeah.
Deeds.
A newly elected EC member,
Love
Pastor.
Brother Deeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pastor Joel Booker, $15,000 from Inland Lighthouse in Rialto. Welcome to the EC, Brother Joel Booker, and thank you for supporting global missions. They'll also be doing the Activate 220 program. They're going to be helping us out there. Let's see here. Brother Rick Bray sent me a text, and he wanted to, his mother-in-law recently passed away, a great person. He loved his mother-in-law very much, very dear to their family. And he was, in her memory, he wanted to give $2,500 to global missions. And so we appreciate Pastor Rick Bray for that. Brand new WPF member, Pastor Scott Kitchens down in Mississippi, $500. Brother Otto Martin in Chalmette, Louisiana, $1,000. Brother Tim Maines, $1,000. Another new member from Illinois, Pastor Meadows, $500. The great country of Canada, a young pastor, Thomas Dehod, $2,000.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
That's
Saskatoon.
great. Yeah, Saskatoon.
We'll take that all money.
Yes, right. Brother Jesse Starr, a great man, $2,000. Pastor Rick Strain, who is the chairman of the South Central Region, the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship, $5,000.
Praise God.
Brother Edward Seabrooks from Georgia, $2,000. Brother Dathan Tipton, $1,000. Great Northwest, Pastor Steve Malone, $250. That's another good one. Glad to see these folks jumping on board, getting involved. Pastor Jeremy Wilbanks, Alabama, $1,000.
Praise God.
Another EC member, Brother Paul Elder, $2,500 from the church in Pueblo, and they're going to be doing the Activate 220 as well. So,
I just got another text from back home. They said make that 6.
maybe six.
My God, if we stay here all night, it'll be up to 10.
Let me make mention that Pastor Paul Deeds, that was Activate 220 as well,
Oh, yeah.
as well as Pastor Brandon Wilmoth was Activate 220.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Another one of our recent EC members, he's just went off, is Pastor Erskine. He's involved in the Activate 220. He's committed and actually already sent the entire year.
Wow.
He said, I believe in it, do it. He said, it's a great thing. So we're happy for that. We had an anonymous donor that said, "Look, don't read my name, but I want to give $1,000. So we'll take it. If you want to go anonymous, we'll take it.
I would interject the text to give and all that, but if they are making a distinction similar to what you did, if they're mailing it in or texting in, maybe it'd help the office if they make that distinction.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Yeah. If you, so make sure, find and facilitate, that you put for find and facilitate. If you're sending it to, we actually have, let me see if I can find that.
I've got $1,000 to find and facilitate from the Pentecostals of Santa Maria. This is Brother Jeff Mercer, which is a pretty cool story, because his father-in-law passed away, and he was there working underneath his father-in-law and ended up taking the work, and the church there is thriving. So that's one of those, you keep mentioning new people.
Yeah,
That's a new,
that's incredible. Love to see these new supporters of mission coming on board. The text to give for Activate 220. We don't want to confuse anybody, but if you want to do the text to give on Activate 220, it's $activate, the word activate, and to 918-383-2280, and you can do that. But you're gonna be hearing a lot from this board over the next few weeks about Activate 220. We really believe in it. We believe in it strong. But tonight, it's really focused on the find and facilitate. Chairman Godare just sent me a text and said they're gonna be doing the Activate 220 as well. Thank you, Bishop Godare. Appreciate that so much. Just got a text from our youth chairman, Brother Zach Wells. He's the head of the youth council. $3,000 from Christ Temple, and we appreciate that. I've got a bunch coming here. Pastor Caleb Adams, Memphis, Tennessee, $5,000 for find and facilitate, and a share of the Activate 220. Thank you, Pastor Adams. They're out of the country right now, but they're supporting. Pastor Dan Schweitzer, $2,000 to find and facilitate. One of your neighbors and somebody that's talked to you, Brother Bradley Beard. No, Burton Beard.
Yeah,
They're
that's
brothers.
right.
I kind of
That's
grew
right.
up with them in Mississippi. I always get them mixed up. So, Brother Burton Beard, $3,000.
$3,000,
That's a brand new
yeah.
contributor. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, Brother Beard.
Where is he?
Oakdale, Louisiana.
Oakdale.
Yeah. Doing a great job.
Brother Howell, is he out of your church originally?
He came to me as an assistant pastor.
Okay.
But then we began together a home missions work about 30 miles from Jennings in the city of Scott, and he's pastoring there.
So he's actually a home missions pastor.
Yes.
And he's probably taken everything he put together to just to get through
Yeah.
the month. And
Brother Jonathan Coffey from Titusville, Pennsylvania, $500.
Wow, that's
Praise
awesome.
God.
So Brother Howell's $500.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
And he's going to do the Activate 220. also.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
absolutely.
amazing. Home missions pastors.
Yeah.
That's great. Man, let's see here. Brother Chad Franklin, this is another, some of these guys
Yeah.
that you
Chad
know.
Franklin.
1,000.
1,000.
Brother Harrington, Roger
Brother
Harrington,
Harrington, 1,000.
1,000. Brother Nathan Cox,
500.
500. Brother Nathan Harris,
Yeah, 1,000.
1,000.
That's an evangelist.
Yeah.
Yeah, an evangelist.
An evangelist.
Brother Chisholm,
Yep, Brother Sean Chisholm pastors in Ragley, Louisiana, the oldest church in the state of Louisiana.
really?
And-
Oldest church in the state of Louisiana?
Yep, $1,500.
Wow, $1,500. Getting
Yeah.
some of that old Louisiana money.
Yeah. And then Pastor Dustin Rose.
That church is older than the blinking light in Raglan.
That's correct. But Pastor Dustin Rose is a new contributor, and he's going to give $2,000. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember those services. Speaking of Activate 220 and missions giving, I remember missionaries coming to the church, and I remember my dad handing out partners in missions and putting my little $5 in, and then as I grew, and then watching that be brought in our local church to, the church, and then the church presenting that conglomerated. And it's just a beautiful thing in my childhood memories of early on, my parents training me on a monthly basis, even if it's $5, get in the habit of monthly support and missions giving. And I have seen the benefit in the many stories of pastors and people and missionaries. To me, this is just a beautiful thing. And if you're a young person that's watching this live, or you are maybe on the archive, and it's 5 days later, we'll still take your money. Get involved in this. Get your kids involved in this stuff, man.
As a pastor, when we planted our church, the first thing that we did outside of our church was to give in the Find and Facilitate offering. I have never, we've grown since then, but as a small home missions pastor at that time, I have never seen mission giving ever harm the local budget of the church.
Oh, no.
No way.
God always sees to it
No.
that whatever you give out, you receive more in abundance.
The whole concept of faith promise is something that has kind of widely been disseminated throughout the apostolic Pentecostal movement, but it wasn't something that was actually started there. I remember back when that was started. I was just a child when faith promise offerings came around, and that's really what you're referring to as people coming through, and the missionaries would come through. But at that time, most churches would host some sort of a faith promise or faith-oriented service towards giving of missions money. And, let me encourage pastors that this is just another way that you can sow this into the fabric of your church. If you'll sow missions giving into the fabric of your church, you're going to end up blessed because of it, and your people are going to be blessed.
Absolutely.
And I've never found a dollar given to missions that really ultimately took away from the economy of that church.
No.
It always increases it. So give, and you'll watch as God begins to take and give your people the opportunity to give. And they will respond. Someone was sharing today about
Bishop
having
Parrott.
a pocket
Yeah.
of missions. Go ahead.
Yeah,
That's
Bishop Parrott, in fact, the initial setup of the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship Mission Program, I had the privilege of being part of that, and we brought in a consultant back in that day, Roland Baker from Pontiac. The reason is Bishop Parrott, old Bishop Parrott, who's gone on to be with the Lord. Through the years, they gave millions of dollars.
Yes, they did.
In the United Pentecostal Church, and even beyond that, millions of dollars over the years. But Bishop Parrott had a statement that he said, people come to church with money in two pockets. He said, one is for their local church, and one is for missions. And he said, they never give to either or. They only give to missions out of their missions pocket and only give to the local church. And he said, if you think you're going to damage your church giving by taking from the mission, he said, you won't, because you'll never touch that, because it takes the Spirit to touch the heart of the pocket with the mission money in. And I have seen that. I would have to agree, even though I'm not an elder like he was. I have seen that to be true. I've seen God touch people's lives when it comes to missions. I remember one time, my father's church, there was a man that one day heard about a kind of a Find and Facilitate opportunity. He wrote a check for over $100,000 through Pentecom at the time to fund radio ministry in China. And this was a guy, just one day it happened, boom, And I'm sure as a pastor, my dad was going, man, I sure wish that had gone into the church budget. I could have used that. But the kingdom of God was benefited. And so there's a real reality that missions touches a special place, but it doesn't hurt, it helps.
yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
Cool tidbits. So you've read some numbers. Do you have more, or is?
There's probably a few more that keep coming, continue to
Okay,
trickle
so-
in. And they
so-
usually do for the next few days.
Yeah, and we have added some of those numbers into a total number. So you want to read that number as to where we are right now with what has been texted in and what's coming in?
Yeah, I think we're getting right there, close to $230,000 that's been pledged tonight.
Okay.
That's awesome.
We're getting there. That's a $250,000 to find and facilitate, and it keeps us light on our feet, able to move and respond and react to whatever the missional needs might be, wherever they might be.
If someone felt the nudge to go ahead and write a $100,000 check, we'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll start, if we need, we'll start radio.
Of course, you know, one of the things that we do this primarily because this virtual offering, because we want the mission service at Summit to be a real mission service. And we don't want the whole service to be consumed with an offering. And I know most people who go to Summit, they're very happy not to have to, for us to have to do this business. And so your continued support of the virtual Find and Facilitate offering will help us be able to continue to have a true mission service that's not focused on trying to raise money, but it'll be focused on the missionaries
Yeah.
that are there. And we always try to have our speaker for that night. This year was Missionary Azar from Lebanon, and I thought done an incredible job.
Sure.
And preaching about the brotherhood was really good. And so, you know, if we want to keep that offering out of Summit and keep it here in a virtual state where we're not just taking over a whole service to try to raise funds, this is a way to do it. It's different, but it can be effective if everybody will know and understand, you know, that's the purpose. None of us like necessarily being on camera or doing that, but we're here really to facilitate missions. And
That was kind of an organic thing too, though. Because in the beginning, when they started taking offering like that, it was helpful to me and probably to many others to see that if you get a group of people that are unified, you can raise a lot of money very quickly.
Yeah.
And so a number of years where they were taking the offering at Summit like that opened up the vision of something like that happening. But then it became time to turn the corner. And then how do we do that?
Yeah.
And
we're
is
able
it
to
even
meet
going to
during
be
COVID.
effective? Because when we started the first virtual Find and Facilitate, we were worried that there wouldn't be much of an offering.
Yeah.
And there was a great response. So organically, it kind of grew from that into what it is now. And I think we all benefit from that whole history of it.
That's good.
I would like to do one little plug, and then I'll kind of get out of the way here. If we're all busy, and I'm not sure, you know, I don't have the data in front of me, how many are watching live, or however many people even are tuned on tonight. But if you're a pastor or a leader, this is something we need to share this need. Call a friend, you know, reach out this week, say, hey, let's get on board with Find and Facilitate. There's a lot of wonderful opportunities. And so even if they're not on and you're in relationship with another pastor, an evangelist, preacher friend, I encourage you to tag in with them and get on board, help us out. Let's make a difference.
And if you want to know where the money is going, you know, at the end of the fiscal year, we begin to upload all of the expenditures from the Find and Facilitate. They're there for people to see. They can go to WPFGlobalMissions.com and they can see. Now, they're not, the past year was not up there yet, but it'll be loaded up there. We're waiting to after Summit and we're in the middle of updating the website and doing a lot of cool things with that. But you can go there and you can actually see where the money is being spent. And this council, which I think represents a broad swath of our fellowship, we were very, very serious about supporting missional efforts. If it doesn't fit the Find and Facilitate model, if it doesn't find something that's beneficial and helpful to missions, then we're not going to support it. If it's not, and so we're transparent, we're open, and I agree with Brother Young. We need you to help support and get you to help, get your friends to help support, because the need's great, and we're going to go further. We're going to do more. And I know we're adding some more stuff to it, but I agree with what these folks have said. Giving to missions is not going to take away from your church budget. I came from an independent background, and I'll try to wrap it up quickly, but we didn't have a real concept of missions. One of the things that being a part of the WPF has done is allowed me to connect with a greater missional vision, and being connected with you guys has helped me as well. But since our church has really got involved in missions, monthly support, designated funds, find and facilitate, I cannot tell you how much our church has been blessed. It's been almost unbelievable to see what it's done. We're not here just to try to talk about numbers, but a little church in South Mississippi that come from very humble beginnings. This year, I think we're approaching about $100,000, which is a lot to some and not much to others, in designated funds that we have given and find and facilitate. But we couldn't have ever done that. I remember our entire yearly budget not being $100,000, but because we started out small and we just continue to give, God has blessed us now to be able to give. And I believe the more we give, we're going to continue to be blessed more. But I really, really, really think that we're headed in the right direction. We want to help our missionaries every way we can. We want to further the kingdom of God. We want to fulfill the Great Commission.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed all the comments. Thank you to all of you brethren and everybody that has watched live as well as listened. That's approximately 400 people watching live and 4,000 listening. And so we thank you for taking a few moments of your time to listen about missions and the burden that we have on the Global Missions Council, the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship. So, gentlemen, I make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Yes.
All right, Brother Kelly Nix is going to second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you. God bless you.